Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for joining the session. I would like us to start because I see we have quite a number. This evening, we have Professor Mosha, who's going to take us through the session of a comparison between what we have here in Tanzania and what's happening outside, especially the Western world. Professor Mosha, thank you so much for joining us. We would like to welcome you. You will introduce yourself more so that the participants can be aware of who you are. Thank you so much. Welcome, and over to you, Professor Mosha.
Thank you, Gaudens. I'll introduce myself. Then after that, I'll ask everybody else to introduce themselves so that I also know who is there. So I begin. Good evening, everybody. This is Professor Raymond Mosha. I am currently the chair of the board of Dyslexia Tanzania, serving as chair of the board. And by profession, I'm a professor of philosophy and ethics and have been teaching for as many years as maybe your parents have lived. For about 50 years now, I've been teaching philosophy and ethics, and we've been teaching mostly in Tanzania, Kenya, USA, and Finland. And this time I'm teaching a business ethics course for students in the USA at DePaul University, Chicago. I teach online, and in fact, Tuesday evenings is one of those evenings that I am busy, so it's not being easy for me to participate in these sessions on Tuesday evenings. But today I did my best to be able to be here. I hope that everybody can hear me. So anyway, I am happy to be here, and if just a little more introduction, there is organization called Finnish Special Education in Tanzania, an organization that makes sure that deaf children in schools can get teachers to teach them, teach by sign language. So it's called Finnish Special Education in Tanzania, and I happen to be the chair of the board as well. And I have got some experience there that I also share. But the experience that I would like to share mostly is that one which I got in the USA and also in Finland. So that is my brief introduction. Happy to be here. I would like to hear other people introduce themselves if Gaudens is okay with that.
Yes, please proceed, Professor Mosha.
Okay, I am serving as in the board of Dyslexia Tanzania, and our work as board is to oversee the organization Dyslexia Tanzania and see that it is indeed giving the service that it plans to do, or it has committed itself to serve. And it's really a privilege to serve in this board and to serve those people or students among us that have some learning challenges. And as I told you, I also chair the board for Finnish special education. There are a lot of students. You'll be surprised in our country that cannot hear, and they're in primary schools and secondary schools. And it's lo and behold that these government schools don't even provide sign language teachers for them. Anyway, the experience I want to talk about is mostly in the USA, where I've taught for about 20 to 25 years. I'm still teaching there. I teach at the university. And whenever I start a course, teaching a course, like now I'm beginning a new course, a summer course on the 16th of June. I'm going to begin a 10-week course, online course on ethics. In fact, problems and issues in contemporary ethics. And the first thing the university tells me before I begin the class, that is like a week or so before the class begins. That means like now, because the class begins on Monday next week on 16th. The university tells me that there are 2 or 3 students in my class that have some challenges. Some could be students that learn at a different pace from others. They learn slowly. Uh, some students don't hear. Some students don't see. And they tell me that particular student needs more time for, like, example, examinations. So when I give an exam for, let's say, 2 hours, this particular student with some learning um, challenges, I will get 2.5 hours instead of 2 hours. Another one student needs to do the examination. If it is a written exam, they need to do it in a special room by themselves so that nobody will disturb them. So what I'm saying here is that the university is very conscious of the needs of every student, so that when the teacher comes into the class, they know that that student needs more time, that other student needs more time examination, that other student needs to do examination, written examination in their own room with no disturbance. So they are very conscious of that. And that's why I think they beat us in Tanzania, because they attend to the needs of every student and see the challenges they have, their learning challenges. And so my stay in the United States was really, I was really amazed how much the government, the schools, the primary schools, the secondary schools, the universities have, they pay a lot of attention to students. And as I said, and this is particularly so in Finland, whereby the teacher comes into the classroom and learns to know every student, what they need, and how they learn, and how fast they learn. So that after a week or so, the teacher makes, now listen to this one, the teacher makes a syllabus uh, that will fit every student. For in Finland, for instance, in the first grade, there are about 20 students, 20, 25 students. So the teacher comes in and makes a syllabus. Here in Tanzania, we have a syllabus for all the kids in the class. Geography, you learn from here to here. These are the books that you read. Everybody has to do that. In Finland, the teacher will make a syllabus for every student, depending on the ability of that student, the talents of that student, the interest of that student, and you 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 will not be surprised that they have so much development, because every student is taken care of according to how they are. Even if they are students who don't have learning challenges, but all the students, each student has different talents or possibilities, potentials. And so the teacher is aware that this student is going to be is more of a carpenter. The other one is a painter. This one is a musician. This one is an artist. This looks like they would like to be a doctor. This like to be a lawyer. So the teacher and the school makes a syllabus. Now listen to this. Makes a syllabus that fits that student. I don't know when we'll get there in a country like Tanzania. It may take some years before we get there, because the numbers are just too so big in our classes. But the point here is at least that the school or the parents and the school are aware of the needs of every student, and they attend to that student according to the needs of that student. I'd like to pause there, and if anybody has a question or concern or comment.
Yeah, you're welcome to ask or to add something. I know we have some teachers with us in the platform. Maybe they would want to chip in and share their experience in the classroom.
I see Dr.
Welcome.
Miriam Elisha.
Yes, Dr. Miriam, karibu sana. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Gaudence, and thank you, Professor Mosha, for a very informative session. I really like what you're sharing, giving us the experiences from other countries, particularly Finland, where we have had stories of Finland being the best in the world, offering best education. And yes, I know that you know a little bit of our situation in Tanzania, and I was just wanting to ask you, because I know you have a massive experience and you have exposure from different countries. What will it take for Tanzania to at least be able to do some kind of differentiation so that we can be able to address the needs of diverse learners in our classroom? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elisha, for a very good question. It's going to take us some time, but I think our society needs to be informed that students learn differently, and each one of them has different talents. At least that we should be aware. At least make our school system, our teachers, our administrators know that these students coming to the classroom, these 20 or 30 students are not all the same. They are different. They learn differently. At least that awareness should be there in the teacher training schools or the universities where we're preparing teachers. Teachers to know that students are different and they learn differently and they have different talents. I've written a lot of articles in the Mwananchi newspaper for the last 2 or 3, 4 years. And I've spoken very, very frequently about the need for teachers and the school system to realize that each student, each person has their God-given talents that are different. And we should be aware of that. Even if we may not in our country attend to each student because the numbers are big in our classrooms. You find in classroom 10th grade, you're talking about 40, 50, 60 students, sometimes more than that. So we need to raise that awareness in our society, that everybody is different. Philosopher with this, there is this German philosopher, Martin Heidegger, has spoken very eloquently about everybody being so different and coming into this world with a myriad of talents and different ways of looking at life. And I think our society is still to learn that you go into the classroom and you teach geography and you're expecting the 40 students to learn geography in the same way and all of them to get an A in geography. Some will get an A, some will B, some won't make it at all. But those that don't make an A in the geography class may make an A in the history class or in the mathematics class or even none of those subjects, and they'll make an A in music or in painting or something like that. So anyway, to come back to your question, which is it's not easy to get an answer, but I think all of us can even contribute to the answer for Dr. Miriam, is that we need to raise the consciousness of our society and especially our school systems that every student is different and they come with different talents. And we should try as much as possible to be able to see how can we attend to these different talents. I hope I answer your question.
Yeah,
And
thank you so much.
You
Thank
may
you so much,
contribute to
Professor.
that also. Please, if you want to add to that, you're welcome to do so.
Not now, thank you. Now I thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we can have Mr. Dedan. We have Mr. Dedan. He attended our talent show recently as one of Dedan Alex, as one of the teachers from government schools. Maybe Mr. Dedan, if you have something to say, na unaweza kabisa kutumia hata lugha ya Kiswahili. Huwa mara nyingi tunatumia lugha mbili, Kiswahili, Kiingereza. So, Mr. Dedan, what can you contribute towards this this question of Dr. Miriam? Okay, Mr. Dedan anapoendelea kujiandaa. So, personally, I think other than having the awareness that there are different learners, like you said, Professor Mosha, other than having that awareness, we can use the available resources we have as a country. We can never be on the same level with those developed countries. We can use the little resources we have to make sure each learner gets something. We could actually teach parents. Parents have a big part to play. Like if parents are able to teach some concepts, if they're aware and they learn something, if we involve the parents, we involve children themselves. Like in a class, I used to teach. I wasn't a teacher. I was teaching students after Form 4. You can imagine in a class, those students who grasp quickly and they have awareness and they care about their other counterparts who are not able to grab us first. They could be used as peers who can teach their fellow students to also catch up. I think you can use, as a teacher, we can be creative. Teachers can be creative to use parents and use other fellow students to teach. Dedan, karibu.
Asante sana. Yeah, I have been late to enter into the Zoom area, but my intention is I had a question from another one who is fasting, and from there I understand, Mr. Mosha, that everyone must create awareness or must raise awareness to the area where disabled people or students are there. So going out to the area where I'm at, I can set my egg so that I can ask a new question according to the carrying on of lecture from Professor Mosha. So let us carry on. I'm just listening you.
Okay, Dedan. I think we can go on, Professor Mosha.
Thank you.
Okay, let me talk about a little bit about the yes. Am I still on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. One of the things I learned teaching abroad is also that parents, you talked about parents, Gaudens. Parents are involved from the very beginning of school when the little girl or little boy goes to the kindergarten, just the first year of school. From that time up to the time the student finishes secondary school, the the parents are work hand in hand with the teacher and the student. The parents are involved 100% in the education of the child. And I saw, for instance, I was teaching in the USA, I was teaching in the university, but I had young kids, my own children, learning in primary school. And my wife and I were called to go to the school, whether it was a primary school or it was, they call them grade schools in the USA, or secondary school, high school, secondary school, they call them high school. And we were called, we as parents, every month, we want to sit with the teacher, the class teacher or another teacher, and with our child, and the teacher went through what's going on in the class. This happened every month. And so we as parents became aware that we were fully involved in the education of our children. And in fact, the school wanted to us as parents to be part, or it's like we were part of the faculty of the school. And so that is another thing that we need to do in our country. to, even if we cannot bring the parents to the school every month or every 2 months, but at least to make our parents be aware that they're part and parcel of the education process of their children. And we can do this by conscientizing them, by talking to them, by having parents meetings. We have parents meetings in schools. And I've attended parents meetings here in Tanzania in the secondary school nearby, where my grandchild goes to school, because I'm on the board of Notre Dame Secondary School. Happen again to be chair in that board. And when we meet with the parents, we always talk about fees and money and all those things, but I have not heard much said about how those parents should be involved in the education of their own child. So we need to do that, and that's not so hard to do, because it's just a matter of the schools being aware. Because that's why I insist that the schools have to be aware, the teachers have to be aware, the system has to be aware, the Minister of Education has to be aware that we need to involve the parents and convince them beyond doubt that they know that they are part and parcel of the education process of their child. And that also, and after that, we can also talk about different talents. But first of all, let the parents be completely involved in the children education. And that is, I was born many years ago. Most of you may be in your 20s or 40s, I don't know, listeners. But when I was born a long time ago, we grew up in the village. And most of the day, I spent with my parents on the farm, taking care of bananas and coffee, taking care of goats and sheep and cows and chicken. And I was learning with my parents about life. And my parents were teaching me about farming, about keeping animals, keeping goats and sheep and cows, but they're also teaching me about life. And so, surprisingly, when I compared life today and life at that time, that we at that time spent more time with our parents, more time than students now are spending with their parents. So we have come to a situation, I don't know, an age in our experience, let's say in Tanzania, whereby parents spend very little time with their children. I spent a lot of time with my mom and dad on the farm. Even when I went to primary school, I came back Saturday and Sunday, I was busy with them, and I was learning from them. So they knew this is our son, this is what he likes, this is what he should learn. So I think in our time right now, we need to, as a nation, uh, become more aware that we need to involve our parents, tell the parents that they are part and parcel of the education of their children. That's something we have to do. And that's where our parents will begin to find out and learn and appreciate the talents of their children, and therefore raise those children to, to grow and learn to bring out their own talents in their life. So that's another thing that I learned. So anyway, I was talking about my experience in the USA, about how the school system there involves parents 100% in the education of their children. And I saw that in Finland, as Dr. Miriam said, Finland must be the best education system in the world, and I've written a few chapters about it, that they have come to the point whereby every child is special and is taken as special. And because they do that, it's easy for them to find out the challenges that the child has. Whereby in our system here, a child can go through standard 1, standard 2, standard 3 without the teachers really knowing maybe this child is dyslexic, because we do not pay attention to each child. And we want all of them to learn the same way. We want all of them to do history and get 100%, and do geography and do the same thing. So what I learned in Finland is how the school system and the society at large is aware of the differences of the kids and the different ways of learning. And I think that's one thing we need to do here. And that's one thing we need to teach in our teacher training colleges and universities, whereby we're preparing teachers for tomorrow. Yes. Maybe I stop there again for a comment or question.
Maybe Professor Mosha, as you say that, you remind me the journey of my son. It took them like
Yes.
5 years to discover
Yeah.
there's a problem, and then after they discover there's not really a problem,
Yeah.
he's learning differently. After they discover, now they tell you, most schools, sorry to say, are out for business. So they're like, transfer your son. We are not able to teach your son. So after
Yes.
5 years of paying school fees and thinking everything is okay, you're given your
Yes.
son to take them to another school. And at that point, you're not sure where are you taking that boy or girl. So really, as you say, we take a lot of time to discover that there's a different need, that the people learn differently, that the children need special attention. And time is irreversible. Time is very
Yes.
precious. For a
Yes.
child, if you're discovering something at 11 years when you had a chance to discover when they were 3 years, 4 years,
Exactly.
that's quite
Exactly.
unfortunate. I see Dr. Vincent, your hand is up. You're welcome to comment.
Yeah. Good evening,
Hi.
Professor.
Yes, please.
Nice to meet you and nice to hear the two experiences from the West and the African context. Mine is just a comment that, what as a continent, African continent, maybe what is really affecting the dynamics in terms of issues regarding disability is the way it is viewed, because it is still viewed, the view of majority of the people within the continent, Africa, they view disability as a medical kind of, it's a disease to them. They think that it's the end of life. The perception of the society also makes the quality of life for parents and children not to be what is expected of them. People feel discriminated when they come and show out their children who have these conditions. So it makes them to hide them. So in the process of hiding them, they don't come out strongly to identify and know what are some of the programs that I expected of them in as far as the conditions are concerned, just like what is happening in the globe or in the Western kind of context. And that's why now the shift should move. And the proponents of this shift should be people who are in this forum, partly, and others who might be not be in this. But we need to shift from the medical perspective that special education or impairments or disability or kind of challenges are viewed in the perspective of medical. But we should move from that concept and say, okay, fine, these are conditions that can be managed, because we have seen people who are so prominent within the society that are making it, and they have these conditions, and they're making it well in the West, in the Western world. So the perception from the society that when you see a deaf, somebody with dwarfism, somebody who is very short, he cannot do anything. Somebody who is deaf cannot be given a position. In the churches, we don't have even interpreters. In the buses, people, when they see a wheelchair, they just pass off. They say, "This is a burden. I can't lift you up." So those are they might see as if they're small, but they make a huge difference. So the social model, I don't know how this can be brought into place, but the social and the moral models, which are going to lead to humanistic kind of approach in disability studies, are what are key towards changing the perception of the society. That might be the starting point. Thank you, Prof.
I really like it. That's Vincent speaking, right?
Yes, that's Vincent.
Yeah, that is so good. You reminded me of where I go to church, and they don't have any sign language person interpreting what's going on in the church. Or at least somebody should be doing that when somebody is preaching, or the preacher is preaching, or the pastor or the priest. And I was thinking of it as we were talking, Vincent, and say, I think I'm going to ask at your church, why don't we have somebody? Because I know some people that have sign language and they don't have a job. Although we to conscientize our groups, our churches, and places like that. The person in my church could sign language, and there are people that need it. And in fact, from what you are saying, Vincent, I'm going to ask wherever I go in the church whether there are people there who cannot hear.
Yeah.
And there could be people who can't hear in our church. And what are we doing about those? So once we begin to pay attention to those people, like in church where people go every Sunday and so on, other people will be conscientized that, hey, yeah, we need to serve this kind of persons. And this is just a condition that some people have. And you say you talked about in Africa, we still see this as, in fact, it's worse. We see it as a curse.
Yeah. Correct.
This family is cursed. They have a child who can't hear. This is a curse. Who was cursed? Was it the father or mother or grandfather? But it just is not so. So we need really to educate. The education that and again, our education really falls short because it doesn't even talk about that. Yeah, since I was in primary school to secondary school in Tanzania to university in Tanzania to my first degree, nobody talked about that some people need to learn differently. Nobody did. And even now, I don't think anybody is doing that. I taught in a secondary school here in Tanzania for 2 years before I began teaching the university. And I taught in a secondary school, and it never appeared to me, never came to my mind that there were students there that learned it differently, let alone who had let's say, learning disability who couldn't hear. I never thought of that. So that is one thing that we need to do, and to educate our society, our people in our villages, in our schools, in our different organizations that um, if a child cannot hear, that is okay. They cannot hear, but those I have seen, there is a secondary school here in Arusha called Patandi Secondary School. Patandi Secondary School is a government secondary school of special education. Most of the children there have some kind of disability. And they have 230 students there from all over the country who attend Patandi Secondary School who cannot hear. And lo and behold, there is no teacher brought by the government to teach by sign language. This is in a school with 230 students who cannot hear. And some of them can't hear really anything. Some can hear a little bit, some can't hear at all. And this is the government school. And so our organization, the Finnish Special Education, we brought money, and we get money from Finland. Those people are very generous. And we pay teachers. Now we have 5 teachers in that Patandi Secondary School, sign language teachers that go into the classroom. When another teacher is teaching geography, these teachers, sign language teachers, translate for those who can hear. Because you find in a classroom about 25 to 30 students who cannot hear. So conscientization is really, really very important. I think I like what Cowden is doing with your group and with the board to conscientize the society that these are students that are ordinary students. They are not cars. It's not a cars. They just have this disability. Just like we have some of us are a little short, some are tall, some are this and that. Some are blood group A, some B, some C, or some whatever O. But our intelligence has come like that too. So we just need really, and I think this is something I'm going to conscientize the society that if a child do something else, they can't hear, but he happened to also be called Raymond like myself. And he was an adult. He could not see at all. And the the society there, as I said before, is so much conscious about the needs of such a person. This guy, he was in my class. He was about 40 years old, and he was brought into class. He was led by a dog. There was a trained dog that took him from his house to the bus station. The dog stood at the bus station and waited for the bus, and the bus came, and he could ask what's the number of the bus. They would say the bus is number 10. It goes to that place. He gets into the bus with his stick and his dog. The dog took him to the train station, and then he hopped into the train. And from the train, he came to the university. And the dog took him to the elevator, what we call the lift. And the lift or elevator took him to the 14th floor where we had the classes. And I was teaching in that class. And he came into the class. This 40-year-old young man came to the class with his dog, and the dog sat by him. And he produced his own laptop. The laptop of a blind person, of course, has those, the letters have some kind of a little, like a little bumps. So when he feels the bumps, he knows this is an A, this is a B, this is a C. So he was, he could hear, he couldn't see, but he was typing on his laptop and writing everything that I was doing. And let me tell you that he was the brightest student in my class.
Wow.
He always scored the highest.
Wow.
This is a blind man who never saw from birth, and he was the first in the class, in examinations, in everything. Anytime I asked him a question, he was the first to raise his hand. He knew it. His mind was as sharp as a razor. This was a blind student. So he couldn't see, but he could hear. He could write. His essays were excellent. His 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 sense of humor was fantastic. And sometimes I would say something in class and say, "Class, do you see what I'm saying?" And he was the first hand up and say, "I see what you mean, Professor." He said, "I see what you mean." He didn't see me, but he saw what I was talking about. He was one of the first to see. So we need to conscientize our society, and I think we can do this. And I think dyslexia is doing that. And I think if dyslexia Tanzania could even pay more attention to talking to parents and telling them that's okay, that young man is okay. He can hear, but he's okay. He can do this. Give them examples of the students that we have. Give them examples of people, Cowdens and the rest of you, some are very big people in history right now who are dyslexic. I think you know some.
Yeah.
Musicians, politicians who do wonderful things. And let me tell you something about those students I saw at Patandi Secondary School. Those who can't hear. They're excellent at IT. I mean, give them the laptop and I'm telling you what they can do with it. They paint beautifully. They can draw. They just. So I think we just need again to continue educating our society, and it takes some time, but we need to do that. And yes, educate parents, society that these are normal children. They have a different way of learning. They don't like history, but they love music. Michael Jackson, they threw him out of school. In grade school, they say you're not good in history, you're not good in English, you're not good in geography, good in nothing, go home. And the parents were really disappointed. But somebody say, this guy, every time music is playing, he's shaking his head. Why don't you take him to music school? Michael Jackson was taken to a music school and see how far he got. That was his talent. So, yeah, I think I can't give more emphasis on that. That is as much as I can do. That these kids are all talented, they're all wonderful, and we as parents and society need to know that. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Mosha. When you were talking about Patandi, I
Yes.
remember Patandi is the model. It's the school we have that is a model school for inclusive education. And when
Yes.
it doesn't have teachers provided for sign language, then you wonder,
Yes.
what are we doing?
What are we
But I
doing?
also see a hand from Elizabeth. Elizabeth,
Yes.
you're welcome. Your hand has been up for quite some time. Welcome. Elizabeth?
Hello.
Yeah, there she.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, madam. Actually, I've joined a little bit late, but I can see the topic is wonderful. And I'm really touched with this topic, considering I've studied in a school which we had these disabled people, and
Go on, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, are you there?
I think we lost her, but we have a
Okay.
comment on the chat. She will comment when she comes back. We have
Okay.
Bukola Olajide. He says, I can
Yeah.
attest to what Prof is saying. We had 3 visually impaired students in our master's class in Nigeria. They were
Yes.
excellent in academic performance and mobility around the school environment. That's a comment
Exactly.
from Bukola.
I'm
Yeah, that's
sorry.
wonderful.
I'm sorry. I was disconnected a little.
It's okay,
What?
Elizabeth,
And I was
welcome.
explaining, yes, I was explaining like we have these disabled people at schools, but there is no tools for them at all. We have no tools for them. They are only considering there are no tools at all. For example, it is the schools for deafs. They attend a deaf school, but not even a single teacher who can do sign language. We students, we are cooperating with the deaf students to learn the sign language and then interpret in the classes when the teachers are teaching. We students by student, we are interpreting for each other. And then for blind schools, the same. They were given like it's okay. They were given like the books which with the writings which they can read, but there are no any other like support they were given. This is so hurting actually. Yeah, I don't know if it's a situation all over Africa or it's only in our country, but I would like to know, like in our fellow Europeans, like how they treat these dyslexia people. Like, are they treating the same with no support, or it's just the problem of our governments, or we really need to bring the children to very special schools because our level of of like we are not able to bring the children to that high schools with which are paying like you pay for high fees. We are not able to do that. So the government should support actually. We should get support for the tools for the kids to learn, but we don't get them. So the kids ending up like they are going to school like to grow. They're going just to grow. They are learning nothing. Because if
Elizabeth,
a
which
student,
country are you coming from?
I'm in Tanzania.
You're speaking from Tanzania. Okay.
Yes. I studied in Kazima Secondary School, which is in Tabora, which
Mhm.
we had deafs, and in Tabora Girls School they have blinds, and no support, actually no support at all. I can speak in my school. And in my class I was the one who translating. I was translating for the deafs, but
What?
no, all the teachers didn't know deaf signs, and they are not learning at all.
My
Wow.
God,
Wow.
it's so sad to hear
So the
that.
good 4 years a kid is learning, but going out with zero. The history is like if you are going there with a deaf, you are going out with zero. It was not like that. If a deaf student get like division 4, she's the brightest. That is how we ran. So it's so like I would like to know like how European are treating these people. What tools are they using to facilitate these students to learn easier and something like that. Thank you.
Elizabeth, that's a wonderful comment, really, and you really echo the problem we have in this country so well. I talked about Patandi Secondary School, which is a government school with about 230 deaf students. There is another school in Arusha called Temi Secondary School. It's about 30 students who are deaf, about 3 or 4 in each class, standard one and from 1 to form 4. And there are no provisions for those. So we have a long way to go, but I think you say something that I would like everybody to think about, that in our schools, or as much as possible, and that's what one thing that we in the Finnish Special Education Organization in Tanzania are trying to do, is to go into a classroom and teach all the students their sign language. And all the students can know some kind of sign language, so they can talk with their deaf counterparts in the class, so they can help the others. And we were amazed in Temi Secondary School in Arusha. In one of the classrooms, most of the students have learned the sign language from the sign language teacher who is there. And those students who have learned the sign language help those who are deaf they can play together, they can joke, they can talk because they use the sign language. So we need to conscientize not just the parents, but also the entire society in their school system, students, to know that we have different capabilities and different potentials, and each one of us do something about it. And each one of us every one of us can learn sign language, how to say thank you. For example, to when a deaf student says something and they say something nice, if you clap your hands, they can't hear. But if you shake your hands like you lift up your hands and shake like you see, can you see what I'm doing here?
Yes,
Can you
yes.
see that, everybody? When you
Yeah.
do
Yes.
that, when you do that, if deaf students say knows that you're congratulating them. No,
Mm.
Yes.
it's,
Yes.
you know that you know that already. But we can
Mm.
Yes.
teach this to all the kids, the simple ones, the greetings, the thank you, they come here, let's go, let's eat. All the students to learn. At Patandi Secondary School, a lot of them are beginning to learn. So I think we need to conscientize not only the students, but the parents, but the other students as well. Of course, the teachers should be at the forefront of this. Thank you,
Thank you.
Elizabeth, for that comment.
Thank you.
You studied Kazima Secondary School in Tabora?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I know that school because I went. I went to Kipalapala school there,
Uh-huh.
right in Kipalapala. I was still.
Okay, I would like to know how
Yes.
Europeans are treating these people. Like, how do they support them?
Or maybe you are not there at the beginning when we began this talk in this evening. I
Of
started talking
course.
about what they are doing, my experience in the USA, my experience in Finland, um, and of course I taught in Kenya also, but I didn't see as much consciousness about this. But in the European countries, they have all kinds of. You talked about what they do. They give them instruments. They give them laptops for kids who can't see. They have hearing aids for students that can't hear. You see, some students can't hear, but they can be given some gadgets to put in their ears and they hear. You
Yes.
see, here we don't have those. In fact, we are trying to do the same thing for Patandi Secondary School in Arusha to measure the hearing level of all those students who can't hear well, and to know this one he hears a little, this one can hear very little, this one can't hear at all, and then try to see if we can get gadgets for them. And we got some money from Finland for the next 4 years to help these students, give them laptops, give them all kinds of gadgets to learn, give them we are going to put some internet into their classrooms. We are going to set up we are already setting up a special classroom at Patandi with laptops and all this and solar power to power the computers and so on, and so that the students can go into that classroom, they can use the computers because they are so good with ICT. These students, they just they're just miracles, and so yeah, I think we need to do more than that, and we need to even to to convince our government to spend more money. Our government are doing very little, really. I'm sorry to say, in this area. I see, Cowdex, there are three people raised their hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and Philemon raised his hand quite a long time. Philemon, are you still there? Philemon,
Yes, I'm here.
your turn. 1 minute because we have about 3 minutes to go.
Okay,
Please
thank you.
introduce yourself and where you are, please.
Yeah, I'm from Tanzania, Arusha.
Yes,
I was adding from Elizabeth, and
yes.
I'm talking about education system Tanzania. In the education system Tanzania, we don't have a clear policy on how we can support those disabled students. That's why you can see many government schools, they don't have infrastructures that support those students. This made them to struggle in their learning, and they see
They
that,
don't have.
yes, so they see like their learning journeys, they are struggling, they see like it is barrier for them. This made them to, some they drop out, and the other they see like, yes. And the other thing, we are lacking qualified teachers. We don't have many courses in university. We don't have many courses that support students to pass through those courses that support special needs. So in the other teacher, you can see they see that they qualified, but in real sense, they don't have a basic education on how to support those disabled students.
Thank you, Philemon. I would like to say something about your comment.
Yes,
Dyslexia Tanzania, last year, November, we had a meeting with the government and many other stakeholders in the education system. And if you're
yeah,
aware, there was a celebration of 30 years at Patandi for inclusive education. And the government, in our meeting in November last year, the government was very clear. They are very keen to support these children. They have 13 categories of
yes,
learners that they are keen to support. But as you rightly put it, we have a long way to go. But the policy is there. We were actually reevaluating the education, the inclusive education strategy. Together with the government, we had the director of special needs in Tanzania, and we had many other stakeholders in education space. So the policy is there. Maybe on the ground, things are not very much the same. Maybe we still need to look at implementation of the policy.
Yes.
Dr. Vincent, your turn.
Yeah, so mine are just a few comments. Somebody has asked about developed countries. That is Elizabeth. Now, in developed countries, they start this process right from the time of conception. There are normally various tests that are done for a pregnant woman so that they can prevent any chances of a child being born of having any kind of disability per se within the society. And if at all one will be born, then measures have already been taken into consideration for that specific child. These measures are going to be in line with the law, the laws regarding people and persons with disability, right from the conventions on the rights for persons with disability are very highly instilled in developed countries. You can't have an office without ramps. You can't have a school which is not modified to suit any child or any person, because we normally say that disability can happen to anyone at any given time within a blink of an eye. We can be walking somewhere and then you triple. You will not be walking the way you are. It means that you have been functionally disabled from the environment. So it can happen to anyone. So even within the society, even the principal, we are not praying, but the principal of the school who is not seeing that my school doesn't have a ramp. Suppose one of these days, her office is upstairs. One of these days happens to get something that is going to be physically immobile to push up until we will be carrying, and the school doesn't have elevators and so forth. So these are the dynamics that need to change the society from the medical perspective to the social the perspective. If you look at now their identification within the developed countries, the identification currently, the CDC, for instance, autism spectrum disorder, the CDC Center for Disease Control in US gives a ratio of 1 to 36. Before that, it was 1 to 120 something, meaning that for each 120, there is only one child. But currently, the ratio is decreasing. Why? Because of appropriate and proper identification mechanism of these students, of these children, right way before they are born. They do the amniotic fluid tests. They do what you call the APGAR scale. They measure every domain so that now they are clear that the condition that is coming is a blind child, or they use the audiometric test where we have the Bera test and so forth for the hearing impairment and so forth. That now mechanism can be set into place that a child has come or a child is born with spinal bifida and so forth. What are we going to do? We need wheelchairs, we need physiotherapists, we need occupational therapists, we need speech and language, we need specialized education for this particular child. These are all put in place into the policies of education, which are very well supervised and implemented. And it's against the law to break such kind of policies within the institution and different setups. That is why they see disability, they see the person first and not the disability. They say that any person is able. So they see the human being feature. I think I've mentioned this statement in all the forums that I've attended here, that let us view the person first and put the disability behind, and we are going to make a progress as a continent. But if we view disability the way Prof has put it, that is a condition that people have been cast, or this is a community that is cast, or disability comes from your side. If it is a wife, you start now separation, you start divorcing people, and we say, okay, fine, in our community, we don't have any person who is walking like this. We don't have a person who is blind. It means so we have so many stereotypes, and we have so many perceptions, and we have so many traditions that are killing the people who are developing these policies within the African context. So it needs a paradigm shift from the medical perspective, traditional, and towards the social paradigm. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vincent. Dr. Vincent is talking to us from Mexico, and he's got a lot of experience as well in this
He's in
education
Mexico.
space. in Mexico, right? Yes, and he's a board of Dyslexia Tanzania. You see the way we are blessed to have such informed
Oh,
people
he's
to
on the
help us
board.
along. Yes, he's in the board.
Wonderful.
So here I'm seeing a hand from
There is
Bijal.
Gaudens there.
Bijal, you're welcome.
Thank you. I know we are out of time, but this is such a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Professor. I'm Bijal from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I was trying to
Yes.
think that whenever we do comparative analysis, we always think of the US or Finland or some developed country. Do we have an equivalent of Finland or within our African continent? Because our classes will have 80 students. Our teachers. So what can we compare and what can we get knowledge from within the African continent where we can share knowledge within us? Because we, like Dr. Vincent was saying, genetic testing is now making sure that we know if a person has a disability very early on. But how that knowledge is getting translated here is that people with this, if a parent finds out my child will have maybe Down syndrome, they are aborting the child earlier on. So if we are translating the knowledge straight from the US or straight from Finland, it might not be applicable in our within our context. So do we have another country within Africa, within East Africa, that we can learn from and then translate that knowledge over here, which is more like culturally fit for us?
Well, is there anybody else from speaking from the rest of Africa in this forum tonight?
Last week we had someone from Kenya.
Yeah.
And she spoke very widely. We had someone very much specialized from Kenya. And I tend to think Kenya is doing much better than we are doing here in Tanzania. And that's why we are able to get a school specifically for learning disabilities. If those of you in the platform, if you know RareGem is a school specifically for learning disabilities. And we had, last week we had the founder and the owner of RareGem. And also the Kenya Institute of Special Education, KISE in Kenya, is actually doing very well. And their provisions they put for children with disabilities and accommodations are taken care of actually, especially if your child is in RareGem. That's not to say that they're perfect. Of course, they also have areas of improvement. And we can also, as a country, get there. So I like your challenge, Bijal, that do we have any African comparison? Because our conditions seem to be different from Finland. Yeah. And we could get someone from Kenya to speak. I don't know if we have anyone
Yeah, I
here.
think yeah, and
Well,
if I may add there,
maybe
there was excuse me, there is someone who was given a short message here. I am from India and my daughter is having difficulty with reading and writing. Could you please help me understand how to identify whether she has dyslexia? I am hoping that maybe this particular person could connect with you, Gaudens. Maybe you
Yes.
can give your phone number so that this particular person can get some more reflections from you. So we
I've
need,
put my number.
yeah,
I've put my number on the chat.
yes,
She can get hold of me on WhatsApp. I
yeah,
have assessors. I have people. We work with different experts who can help. We even have people in the UK who can do an online assessment. And
yeah,
actually some ladies from India, but she's based in the UK and she's an assessor and can help this girl. So get my
yeah.
number there on the platform. You can contact me. I saw someone here, Nichesius Godwin.
just
Please
a
introduce
comment,
yourself.
Claudience.
Okay.
Can you give,
Can I just
make it,
comment
Go
for
ahead,
30
Mr.
seconds?
Vincent. Yeah.
we give you 15 seconds, please.
Okay, yeah. Now, just a comment for Bijal. Sometimes we learn from the globe and we take whatever they do and try to see how best can we adapt and adopt them to sit. I know we can't put all of them in place, but at least what can we borrow from them so that we can see how best we can develop our policies. So sometimes it's important. We might not have a comparison in the African context per se, but sometimes it's very important to learn from them because all these disability policies are coming from the centralized place, the conventions on the rights for persons with disability and the UN kind of conventions and so forth. So countries are borrowing from there and they develop their own. So I think we can also borrow from them and see how best we can, what can we implement and what can we not implement and why can we not implement it if they're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vincent. So we learn from the best and then we localize the items. That's amazing. Nichesius, if you're able to speak, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe I'll be the last person, probably. And it looks like everything I wanted to talk about, everybody's been touching it. But I just wanted to kind of respond a bit on what Bijal said concerning localizing things that we get from abroad. I think these are developed countries. I'm currently in the US. I'm a PhD student in education, but also I've been teaching here at the University of Georgia since 2022. And I've seen a lot of students, the way these different, I call them different abled, not disabled, but they're different abled students struggle in acquiring knowledge. And for example, we have these other students that we see are like normal, that we see they're not, maybe they don't have any kind of disability, but in the real sense, they also learn differently. Some of them need extra time when they're doing the test or something. So in these environments where we are, we find that these students are treated differently. So they are accommodated and given an extra time to accomplish the exams. Something that I think is a little bit different because I'm from Tanzania, Mwanza specifically. So I think there are many things that we need to get from here or from wherever the countries abroad, because they are developed already and we are still developing, and then try to contextualize in our own context in our countries. So I just wanted to touch on that. I had kind of a lot of things here to talk about, but it looks like time is out. And thank you for bringing this up. Somebody shared this link with me. I didn't know this existed. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I would love to have you in our support group. One of these days, you should also come up and maybe share a topic and your knowledge, Mr. How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, my name is a little bit dramatic. It's Nicasius.
Nicasius. Okay, Nicasius, I would love to connect with you. My number is on the platform. Please, if you don't mind, you can join our support group. There's so much we can learn from you. I'm sure you can also learn from us. I have a message on the chat. There's Terry saying in Finland, they have invested heavily in their teachers. Teaching is a well-respected profession there. Teachers hold master's degrees and enjoy professional autonomy. Have we started paying attention to teachers' colleges in Tanzania? Wow, this is $1 million question. Prof, would you like to take this?
Very good question. Very good. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Go ahead, Gaudens. You want to talk about Gaudens?
Okay, so as Dyslexia Tanzania, we're really doing our best, and we need support from all of you. We have, we would love to work with teachers' colleges. We have done a few workshops at Patandi being a model school, as I said, for inclusive education. So we are very keen to work with them. We are also working, by the way, with Tengeru Institute of Community Development. We have a relationship with them. It's starting though. We would love to work with all these colleges around, and we are starting a club at Archbishop. Some of you might know Archbishop Miayo. I think it's the only university in Tanzania that is teaching people on how to handle learning disabilities. They're teaching teachers who can go and handle better learning disabilities. So we are already collaborating with them. We are on the initial stages, and we are starting a club there where we are collaborating with students from Archbishop Miayo and the management to see how we can start a club in that university that will be spreading awareness together with us. Of course, we are also working with teachers from that university. So this is the much we have done with us, Dyslexia Tanzania, and we're looking forward to even collaborating and having partnerships with more. But this does not end there. We are very keen to work with the government. You know, policy changes don't take a day. It's a long-term process. And because we are already being invited to discuss with the government on matters inclusive education, one day we will get there. So we've slowly started, but it's not going to take a day. We need support of parents. We need all of us in this platform to invite your friends. Imagine how much we have learned. And today our maximum was only 24 people. So as an individual, you can join us, invite your family, your friends, because you never know when you will need this knowledge. That's why we started this dyslexia online school, so that we can reach a wider range of people from everywhere. We can get speakers. I know Dr. Vincent, all the way from Mexico, has spoken. We've had people speak from Scotland, US, UK. So this is the essence of having a dyslexia online school. And we always welcome teachers, but it's unfortunate that they've not made time to have a good number of them. I'm proud of people like Bijal. She's been one of the speakers and she's in a school in Dar es Salaam. I wish we could have more and more teachers to commit to attending these sessions. I'm sure it can make a whole lot of difference. Professor Mosha, would you like also to add something on this, this comment of Terry about how much we are doing to invest in teachers, just like Finland is investing?
Well, I think that we have all said that we need to conscientize. Say you're talking to schools, to colleges, conscientizing. Like you talk about Archbishop Mihailo College. That's one where there's so other places that we need to. For example, if we could introduce a course into the universities. And that's maybe one thing I'm going to suggest. A course in the university talking about, let's say, a course entitled um, learning disability or handling of disabilities in our communities as a course in the university. And that is a course that I would really push university to have. And I'm going to ask one or two universities that I know to push that kind of course. Now, that course in some universities would be mandatory for every student to take. But again, in a teacher training college, that would be necessary. In a place like um, a university or colleges like that, and I've spent most of my life in the universities. This is one place that we can bring that idea and let students know about it, so that a society at large. I think the thing is, and I think that's one thing I learned from tonight, that let us, as much as possible, conscientize the whole society, students, and parents, and schools, and whatever, to be conscious about this that there are different ways of learning, and there are students with disabilities, but they are just as good students like anybody else. That's one thing I learned tonight. When I go away from this session today, I'm going to go away knowing that I learned that we need to conscientize more, to make people more aware of it, parents and schools and students and so on and so forth. And I'm going to push. Yes. So that was
Thank you
good.
so much. Thank you so much, Professor Mosha. And yes, we have that course at Bishop Miayo. I have people in my support group who are doing a course on special needs and particularly specializing on learning disabilities. Now, the thing is, because we've not started as early as other countries we've featured today have started, maybe we don't need a few to specialize in learning difficulties. Maybe we need all teachers. These courses should be maybe mandatory in all our universities because this
all
particular
teachers.
Yes, for all teachers.
I agree. All teachers, I agree.
Yes.
All teachers.
Thank you so much. This was a very special session when I had two of my board members actively participate, one of them being our board chair, Professor Mosha. You're such a blessing to us. Thank you so much for the good work you're doing. And of course, Dr. Vincent has always been part of us. And so tonight we had two board members in attendance. That's amazing. Thank you, everyone. Let's save the date again. Next Tuesday, we have another very informative session. We endeavor to have these sessions every Tuesday. Learning is a lifelong process. There's always something you can learn, and information is power. You never know. Like Dr. Vincent said, you can become a person of special needs anytime. You can just fall down and you've been walking all along with your 2 legs. So you just never know. Let's just be kind. Let's spread inclusion, spread the love. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. And next Tuesday, next Tuesday, I'm going to write an article from this session.
Wow, nice.
Yes.
I will look for it, Professor Mosha. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yeah. I'm inspired by today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.